did I go wrong? I'm turning 35 this year and recently got divorced, and I really miss my 2-year-old daughter. I apologize in advance for the long post. A little backstory: my ex-wife, 33 Fahrenheits, and I met a little over 4 years ago. We were both in various failed relationships before that, and I've always had the tendency to fall for the non-committing type before that, always leaving me heartbroken. So when a friend introduced me to my ex-wife, I initially said no, as she was not my type at all. I agreed to go on at least one date anyway, and that's when I fell so hard for her. Apparently I wasn't her type either, but she said she started falling for me too. My ex-wife comes from a very troubled childhood where she was severely abused by her stepmom, while my parents were educators and very strict with me while growing up. So I was a rebellious child, but almost never got to have the last word with them. They've never really treated me like an adult. My ex-wife comes from a very wealthy family too. We got married after a year of dating because we seemed perfect for each other, and my wife really wanted to start having kids ASAP, although I was a little hesitant because I wasn't fully financially stable yet. She knew all this, as I was very clear about how much I earn and what I had in my savings before we got married. 3 months into our marriage, we found out that we were pregnant. We were ecstatic, but I started worrying about our future expenses. Things were going well until I got retrenched. I've always had this business idea, but never really had enough money to start it up, and my wife told me to just do it and that she'd put in the money for me. And so I did, but the business had to be sold at a loss just after a year, as my business partner stopped contributing to the company the moment business started slowing down. I tried my best to keep the business afloat, but I eventually had to cut my losses. Losing the business and the money got me so depressed that I stopped being myself around my ex-wife. We had to move in with my in-laws for a bit after her delivery while waiting to move into our own home that was being renovated. This was when my ex-wife and I started having arguments almost every other day, as she used to project all the anger she had towards her stepmom on me. She was also going through postpartum depression, and this only made things worse. I tried to be there for her as much as I could, but it was hard as I had to work almost every day of the week just to pay for everything. This took a toll on our relationship, as my ex-wife started claiming that I'm not doing anything to improve our finances or spending on holidays or days out with them. I did still take her out whenever I could, but it's usually for dinner dates or cafe visits because those were the only things we could afford. We even stopped having sex when she got pregnant, as she had really bad morning sickness and had very low hemoglobin levels. So being a very sexually active person before our marriage, I turned to porn for a bit until she gave birth. It was unfortunate that I was going through depression around the same time after my daughter's arrival, as I had low to no interest in sex after that. I started feeling emasculated, as I felt like I was not doing a good job at being a provider for my family. I tried explaining this to her, but she never understood where I was coming from. She felt that I was not attracted to her anymore after childbirth, and that I did not love her anymore, although I did, and I still do. She was contemplating divorce because she felt like this was not the kind of life she envisioned when she got married, and I kept asking her to just be patient with me. Things took a wild turn one day when my parents came to visit one day and said something to my ex-wife, which led to an argument between them. I got involved and told my parents off, but she felt like I didn't do enough to protect her from them. She has always felt that they didn't love her enough from the day we got married, so she has always disliked them. Unfortunately, this argument between them seemed to be last straw for her, as she wanted to finalize the divorce right after that. I begged her to stay and work things out, but she was very adamant as she didn't want anything to do with my family anymore. She also started comparing our lives with her friends who are either always on holidays or are getting gifted expensive gifts. We even attended couples therapy, but she did not want to change her mind and refused to listen to the therapist. I knew things would get better eventually, and I've always wanted to be the kind of dad to my daughter that I never had, and for her to grow up in a single happy household. My ex-wife did not want to change her mind, even for the sake of our child, as she kept saying that she's not happy in this relationship anymore. There was no more reasoning with her. On top of that, there was a period of time where we were not speaking to each other for a while during this whole ordeal that she decided to meet up and confide with this guy she used to like from her teenage years and hid his messages from me. Mind you, I know a lot of her other guy friends we have occasionally met up with, but she decided to meet this guy that she used to like, probably in hopes that he'll reciprocate the feeling now that she's going to get a divorce. But he did not. She cried and apologized and claims that she was not emotionally cheating on me with him, but I think we all know the truth. Where I come from, mothers get priority over the child after a divorce, and I'm paying for child support every month. Initially, after the divorce, things were still fine, and she seemed happy to not have any connections to my family anymore, and told me we'll just take things one day at a time, and I thought we'll eventually reconcile one day. She still had our pictures on her phone and still looked like she wasn't ready to give up yet. But then after a few weeks, she started saying that I should move on, and that I shouldn't delve on our past anymore, which seemed a bit weird to me. She told me she had deleted all the photos and our messages and that I should do the same. I snooped around and found out that literally 2 months after our divorce, she reconciled with her ex and started going on dates with him. We had another huge argument after that, where she then claimed that we're divorced and I shouldn't question her anymore. Which is true, of course. I felt like a complete idiot that day. It has now been another month since that incident, and I wish I could go no contact with her, but we do still keep in touch just so I get to see my daughter and to FaceTime my daughter whenever I'm busy with work. I'm so broken, and previously, all I wanted in life was to have a happy family, because I've always believed that there's no point of being rich and not having a family to share it with. Now that I'm alone again, I don't even know why am I still here for. The thought of my daughter calling someone else her father is devastating. I almost took my life the day I found out my ex-wife checked into a hotel with her ex and hid it from me. I know it shouldn't bother me anymore, but I just couldn't help it. I honestly don't see the point of living anymore, but I'm still here because I sob like a bitch every time I think about my daughter, not wanting her to wonder where her real father is someday. I don't know how things are going to be for my daughter if the new guy moves in, but I'm devastated. Every day, I keep thinking if I should have done things differently or tried to communicate better with her. The regret is eating me up. I've seen my friends go through worse with their wives, husbands, but they are all still together. I'm someone who hates conflicts, as I grew up with an abusive dad, so I have never once lifted a finger or shouted at my ex-wife either. I don't even know why I'm still going into work anymore. I have been drinking too much these days just so I can sleep at night, and I almost always wake up with dreams, nightmares of reconciling with ex-wife only to realize it was just a dream. Anyone else here with a similar story? Does it get better? Comments. One cheated heart. When a relationship ends, regardless of how it ends, you do need to allow yourself time to grieve. It is a loss. You kind of have to feel all those feelings in order to purge them from you. Time is a healer and time is a teacher. Give yourself time. I've heard it said that all things have a half-life. If that's true, I should take about half of the time of the length of your relationship. I don't know if that made sense. Be kind to yourself and treat yourself with love. Spoil yourself as much as you can and when you can. Focus on being the best father, and that means emotionally and mentally taking care of yourself. It's hard to be away from your kids, but they grow up. They ask questions and they want answers. And eventually your kid will too, and you don't have to be the one to answer those. You can leave it up to her to deal with, or if you feel like you can talk about it with your kid, then you should one day. But for now, your focus should be on fully healing. There's no time limit on how long you need. Best of luck to Ying and Ni. I know the feeling of missing all the children's milestones, not being able to tuck them to sleep, not being there for them. It's been 4 years now, and I've progressed from seeing the kids only under her watchful eyes to seeing the kids without her around, but with my parents. I still don't exactly know my child, and it pains me. Wanted to give up many times along the way. The ex denies access at her whim, using the children as a shield. Some months I see them once, but I see the effects. My daughter looks forward to these. My son, he's getting there, I think. So yes, it does get better with time, but very slowly. A lot of it is about your own expectations.